Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you. So we're coming to Yubel. Decided to switch up my Yubel build a bit. Well, I do this for, of course, every deck at the beginning of every season. I actually go through and delete all of my decks at the end of a season, and then I pretty much rebuild them from scratch. I definitely prefer doing that as opposed to, like, swapping out cards one-to-one. I feel like it gives a lot more cohesiveness to the build. To just start over from scratch, right? I think it's definitely crucial as well if you're paying attention to ratios to really help stay on top of that. That's another reason why I like doing it. So I talked about this a little bit yesterday in the Sprite video, but one of the things I've been definitely paying attention to as I deck build lately in this current meta is how many one-card starters am I playing? And I really like to have above 10 if possible, ideally somewhere in like the 12 to maybe even 14 range, although above 13 tends to be quite a bit for most decks. But not only that, but also pairing it in with the balance of hand traps and making sure that ratio is all set. So for this build, I'm on 42 cards, and I did notice as I'm paying more attention to ratios that I am going above 40 cards lately. I'm thinking back to, I think even a year ago when I was very staunchly like, I always want to play 40 cards, but you know, that's the thing, right? Like, sometimes it's okay to go over 40. It might seem like you're inherently losing consistency, but as long as your ratios of starters to hand traps is still good, then your consistency shouldn't suffer even if you do go a little bit above 40, right? So here, for example, let's count the hand traps and one-card starters for Yubel. So for this build, for one-card starters, we have the Lotuses are 3. Beckoning Beast is not necessarily a full combo by itself, but it is a solid board still by itself. So I'm going to count that for the purpose of these ratios, right? So we have 6, including those. We have 9, including the Nightmare Thrones, rather, as well as the 1-for-1 makes 10. And then, again, opening the Spirit Gates, because we are on Chaos Summoning Beast, that's not necessarily a full turn 1, but it's still, you know, a pretty solid board. So that makes for a total of 13. 13 is, again, not too shabby as far as the number of one-card plays that we have. Similarly, we're going to count the number of hand traps that we play. 1 Veiler plus 3 Maxi is 4, plus 2 Gamma is 6, plus 3 Ash Blossom is 9, plus 1 Nib is 10, plus the 3 Imperms is, again, 13. So again, I like to keep those numbers as close to the same as possible, because I really do value opening, at the bare minimum, one card starter and 1 hand trap in my opening hand. Ideally 2. For that reason, I don't know, I would like to fit more hand traps into a lot of these builds, but you do, of course, also need to play other cards for the purposes of an engine. Like, to be fair, you know, there are a lot of cards that are still really good to open that we didn't even necessarily count among those, right? Like Nightmare Pain is definitely not a bad card to open, and a lot of the time opening that can definitely help you get there. Gruesome Grave Squirmer is a pretty good extender to open. But at the same time, and this is another reason why it can be good to play over 40, there are a number of cards that we're not necessarily trying to open. Of course, Driver, Chaos Summoning Beast, but honestly, even like Sharvara, I'm not a big fan of opening this card because it's like, a lot of the time you'll be able to search it with Yama anyway, and it would definitely be better to open like another hand trap or, you know, maybe like a Call by our Crossout or something. Call by and Crossout are also kind of weird because they neither fall into the hand trap nor starter or even really extender category, but you know, you pretty much always have to play this little package of anti-hand trap cards here. So this build is actually not too different from the one that I played last season, although I remember the one I played last season was 41 cards. I also remember it was on the Puri Reese map, and I do remember seeing some comments kind of asking, with good reason, you know, here, hang on, if I just search, because I don't remember how to spell Reese, Puri map, here we go, or EIS, okay, so, you know, I did see some comments asking, like, why would you not always play Puri Reese map? This is not just more starters. And, I mean, yeah, that is definitely a pretty fair assessment of the card, right? Because it can, of course, just search you the Samsara D-Lotus, and then boom, you're off to the races. But there is a bit of a drawback to Puri Reese map, and I'm not even necessarily talking about the paying half your life points, although that is, of course, definitely worth noting. This card does play pretty heavily into Droll, but even that aside, I think that's a pretty minor drawback. The main drawback is that Puri Rees map does not play very well with like opening Beckoning Beast and or Nightmare Throne or opening of the Spirit Gates or something like that. I guess to be fair, if you play opening, you could still use the discard a card to bring back effects. But the main thing I'm getting at here is that, you know, if you Puri Rees map into Samsara D Lotus, you have to normal summon the Samsara D Lotus, right? You cannot use other monsters or effects of the cards with that name until you normal summon a monster or a card with its name. So this doesn't really play that friendly into a lot of extenders. I guess to be fair, you could just get the extra normal summon for the Beckoning Beast into the Samsara D Lotus. But one thing to note about Puri Rees map, and this is where the riskiness really comes into play, is that this is not like until the end of the next turn after this card is activated. So just keep in mind, right, that if you like normal summon Beckoning Beast and let's say it gets like negated or something, you know, you can't like opening to pitch Lotus and then bring it back and then use the effect because that's a special summon. So you have to normal summon the Lotus, which I don't know, between that and then also the draw and also the having life points, it's like that's just a bunch of really minor reasons as to why Puri Rees map isn't always optimal. I don't think it's a bad card, not by any means, but also, again, I don't necessarily need that many more starters, right? Like, as I was saying before, I think 13 one-card starters is a perfectly fine amount to play. If anything, I'd like to add more hand traps and open multiple hand traps more consistently. So, yeah, I think that's kind of my stance on Puri Rees map. Again, not a bad card at all, but I would not consider it mandatory by any means either. I think it is quite optional. So, for the extra deck, is the extra deck the same? I feel like the extra deck is the exact same as last time. If not, this is, I think, pretty much where I would fall for the Yubel extra deck almost every single time. Love the Chaos Angel. I think we are going to see a game, if I recall correctly, where this does come up. And it's a lot more likely to come up than you may think. Now, you might look at the deck and be like, what, isn't Gamma our only tuner? I guess in addition to the Ash Blossom. But gotta remember, you don't necessarily need a tuner to be able to make Chaos Angel. A lot of the time, you're gonna end up making it with Phantom, plus one of your, like, you know, random level 1 monsters. So, let's see. As far as, like, again, this extra deck is just pretty standard. We're on Cross Sheep going for those lines. A-Bomb is kind of like my extra link for, in case I'm in a grindy game and I don't necessarily want the access code talker, right? Access code talker, going into that with Anguish is more of like an OTK thing, but if you're in, again, a grindy game and you're making Anguish to clear your opponent's board, but you know you're not going to win that turn, it can be better to go into Unchained Abomination just to set up some more interaction and disruption for your opponent's board. Yeah, I mean, I think I covered, again, as I've been doing pretty much every card that I would normally do in the deck breakdown. It's a pretty standard Yubel build. There's not really too much super special going on here. Super Poly, I guess that's the other thing too, right? There is also Super Poly, which, although I don't, this obviously isn't a hand trap, I kind of consider it in the same category almost as a hand trap, because going first, you can set it and then use it against your opponent. Going second, you can use it to clear their board, right? So I think maybe, because I've been talking about playing more hand traps, I think playing Super Polys would actually be the way if I wanted to play a little more disruption. And of course, then we would make some room in the extra deck for some targets, mainly against the Loving Defender. But that's the thing, right? Is like, what would I take out of the main deck? I mean, taking out Gamma's End Driver technically does add +1 to the disruption counter. Gamma is so good in this deck, between Samsara D Lotus and the Nightmare Throne and the opening of the Spirit Gates and the 1-for-1 and the Nightmare Pain. There's so many times you're activating important effects when you don't have monsters on the field that Gamma is a lot more live for this deck than it tends to be for a lot of other decks. So, I don't know. I guess that's, again, thought for another time of how to include Super Poly in a build like this. But anyway, let's just start taking a look at some of those replays that we have here. Okay, so this first opponent is going to be on Voiceless Voice, which is doing pretty well as far as win rates go. I've noticed the popularity is declining, but doing pretty well. Again, you know, just like the Sprite video last time, for our first game here, we're going to start off going second, and we're starting off with a hand that highlights, again, why I think it is so important to pay attention to ratios. Now, of course, I'm not saying that if you play the same ratios I do, you're gonna magically open hands like this every single time. But again, you know, deck building does greatly influence the quality of your hands, of course. And, God, I love opening a hand like this going second. So, so good. So of course they're going to lead with a barrier, and I'm going to let it resolve here. By the way, I don't know if people have asked this yet, but if you're wondering what these little check marks are, that's actually a new feature of Untapped, where it'll show you how many of the effects on the card have been activated, or if the card has activated its effects, rather, without necessarily having to click on it, which is a very handy little feature. So if you feel like getting Untapped, which is this little deck thing on the side here, definitely check out the description below. Clicking that link and getting the free Untapped.gg companion also does help support the channel, so thank you very much to everyone who's doing that. But anyway, our opponent's going to then Saphira. I'm going to Gamma here, because I just want to be able to use this card while I have an opportunity to, so we're going to Gamma pull the driver out of the deck. Of course, Saphira also definitely not a bad card to negate. In doing so, we have prevented them from searching, as well as setting up the ability to Ritual Summon here, so... Alright, going for a turn here. I'm actually going to lead with a Nightmare Throne, popping the Spirit of Yubel, because I already have both Beckoning Beast and 1-for-1 pitching Veiler to make plays, so I'm actually going to lead with a Phantom to help insulate against potential hand traps. Now granted, there are also the 2 face-down cards to consider, but if one of them is Imperm and my opponent has a hand trap, the Phantom of Yubel could still eat an Imperm. Now opponent's actually got a Super Poly face-down. They're going to pitch the Sorvis, fusing my Dark Beckoning Beast and Chaos Summoning Beast, going for Garura. You might be wondering, Hex, why are you going for a, Chaos Summoning Beast line here? Well, it is actually for this exact reason. I'm baiting out some plays here. I did manage to bait out the Super Poly. Now, again, if the last card in hand is a hand trap, we have an out to that as well. That doesn't play into the last face-down card. That is still the last kind of remaining wild card, so to speak, here on my opponent's end, but we should be fine making some plays here. Gonna pitch the Veiler for 1-4, and like I said before, Samsara D-Lotus is activating the effect, going for the Spirit of Yubel. Spirit of Yubel F, grabbing the Nightmare Pain, flipping up the Nightmare Pain. Gonna use the effect here in order to pop the Spirit of Yubel to grab the Gruesome Grave Squirmer. This is, of course, pretty standard Yubel stuff that we're doing here. Nightmare Throne going to grab the Terra Incarnate, with Spirit of Yubel grabbing the OG Yubel themselves. Alright, we got the Grave Squirmer in hand. Yeah, we're in a pretty good spot here, although I don't really know how likely my ability to OTK is here, because, like, I could make access code, but that's not going to be enough, and the Garura isn't big enough to run, Yubel monsters in until they, well, lose life points. So, what I am going to do here is I'm going to go for the Chaos Angel. Oh, this was actually the plan here, was to... oh, but that's right, I wouldn't be able to go for the Unchained Soul of Anguish because I need an Unchained monster, not a Fiend. But I am going to go for the Chaos Angel here, and you might think that I would activate the effect and go after the face sound card. However, I'm going to target the Barrier of the Voiceless Voice instead, because here's the way I see it, right? If that last face down card does end up being a threat, then I could try to force it now, but I could also just go after the barrier. That way, if it is a threat that can stop me, I still have now, forced them into a situation where they're not necessarily going to have follow-up plays. And after I banish the barrier, sure enough, the last card ends up being Super Poly. And sure enough, the last card in hand was a hand trap. So leading with the Phantom here did actually end up mattering, because that Ogre, that Ghost Ogre right there, could have been very, very brutal against me. It could have stopped the Nightmare Throne, it could have stopped the Opening, it could have stopped the Nightmare Pain. So many different cards here that Ghost Ogre would have been so good against. But again, by leading with Phantom of Yubel, we were able to put ourselves in a situation where it did not end up mattering here. So I'm going to Phantom of Yubel the Garura draw, and that's actually where my opponent's going to end up conceding. And with good reason, too, because now not only do I have the ability to summon out the Yubel, I have more bodies, but now they're definitely in top deck mode. Like, I don't think this is a board state where I could actually OTK after doing all of that, but we do leave them on 0 cards in hand or field after all of that, and we can definitely very easily set up another Phantom, as well as more disruption. So, again, the game is pretty much ours, even if we aren't reducing their life points to 0 this turn. I think that was actually a pretty solid first game to start with, if I do say so myself. And I do, in fact, say so myself. But anyway, let's go ahead and just, let's see the next duel here. Alright, so this next game is against a Yubel branded hybrid. And, We're going to see why it's a branded hybrid here in a moment. Now they're going second game. Wow, somebody going second games. And we have a lot of hand traps. This time, however, rather than a one-card starter, we have a Terra Incarnate, which is not necessarily ideal, of course. But so this is the kind of hand where I am going to prioritize Max C a little bit more over something like Valor or Ash Blossom, because I want to make sure that I'm drawing live plays here. So they're going to throw out the Phantom, and, like, I don't know. I informed really early here. Maybe I could have waited for them to actually make a play. That's definitely what I should have done. That imperm, don't do that. Don't do what I just did there. Do as I say, not as I do. I really should have waited for them to normal summon the Beckoning Beast or make a play before I just imperm the Phantom, because it would have been pretty easy. Oh no, they never thrown to 4 Beckoning Beast, so I knew they had it. I mean, so I should have waited for them to commit to the field. Basically, again, I really want to make sure this Max C resolves, but, you know, again, improving that early, I might have, again, waited for the Beckoning Beast to get on the field. Probably even, like, the other Beckoning Beast / Chaos Summoning Beast as well. Yeah, this is where I should have impermed Phantom Yubel, and then Max Seed later, so. Alright, so Spirit, I'm gonna get the draw, grabbing a Gruesome Grave Squirmer. It's not bad, but anyway, I'm gonna Valor the Spirit here. Keeping them off the Nightmare Pain is very important, not only for the ability to search, but also that battle effect is pretty nasty too. Looks like they're going to go for a Ver Anaconda. This is where they pivot into the branded stuff, right? I was like, okay, Ver Anaconda, what are they going to send? Branded Fusion, alright, what are they going to send with that? Yeah, we're getting Sanctifier locked. I talked about this on Twitter already, this actually exact game, but I will repeat what I said on Twitter, which was, sorry, I bumped the mic there, which is that ever since Ido and Puppet have been banned, anytime Sanctifier has been summoned against me, it's exclusively been to lock me, right? And I'm gonna cut off the argument that I know some people are gonna try to make here, which is like, no, it's Vert's fault. Your opponent wouldn't be able to do this without Vert Anaconda, and it's like, well, yeah, you know, Yubel and Branded as a hybrid wouldn't be possible without Vert Anaconda, but of course, Sanctifier locking is still very possible without Vert Anaconda. Vert Anaconda in this situation has actually enabled a pretty cool hybrid between the two decks, right? Yubel and Branded. And I think that's cool. I think the ability to combine multiple archetypes and get creative that way is to me the epitome of Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck building. That's why I'm in support of these strong generic cards like Vert Anaconda to help support hybrid builds. It's Sanctifier that's causing a non-game here by sending the Jowgen. You could argue, well, Jowgen's a floodgate and should get banned anyway. But of course, there's also D&D Vice Requiem, there's like Archfiend Emperor, there's D&D Orthos, there's, what's the big one? Did I say Vice King Requiem already? Christia, that's the other one I was thinking of, so yeah. Unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit of a non-game situation here because of the Sanctifier. Oh, also, I do want to point this out. Real quick. That I did hold the Ash Blossom for the entirety of my opponent's turn last turn. That is because I was waiting for Yama. In hindsight, yes, I should have probably Ash Blossom like the Nightmare Throne or something. However, I thought my opponent was going to pivot into Yama after all those hand traps. I was not expecting Vert Anaconda into a Sanctifier lock. That was, excuse me, that was not on my bingo sheet. Okay, so I will say that I misplayed here, actually. Not by making Phantom of Yubel. I should have just made it, oops, sorry. Need a sip of water there. I should have made it with the Lotus instead of the Grave Squirmer, because what my opponent was waiting to do is they were waiting for me to commit to my normal summon before they brought back the Jowgen. I think if I had thought about this play a little bit more, then leading Phantom again was the good call, but I probably should have just passed after that and just tried to chill, right? Because my opponent's not really in a game state where, like, they can super pop off here. I mean, I guess they could, but that would play into both my Ash Blossom and Nib. So I should just not summoned... Well, no. What I should have done is I should have made Phantom with Squirmer, but not normal summoned Lotus here. Because after I do that, yeah, I'm just going to bring back Jowgen. And then I'm in a losing game state here because I can Phantom, but then they Phantom my Phantom, and then now I lose the game. So I could have, the duel could have lasted longer. It wouldn't have necessarily been a guaranteed win on my part, but I could have played better to make the game last longer. So, you know, I'm not going to pretend like there was nothing I could have done and that, you know, it was entirely Sanctifier's fault. Again, and also a shout out to good friend and team partner Foxy Laloon for helping me break down this game scenario and kind of help me seeing that and pointing that out for me. But yeah, no, it's like, you know, I'm not going to pretend like I played perfectly and it was Sanctifier's, you know, fault that I lost. I could have made the game last longer, but again, I don't think it can really be argued that Sanctifier did much here besides making a lock situation. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Just ban it. Just ban it. Just ban it. Anyway, we do have one more game. Let's finish off with that one. And our final opponent's going to be on Snake Eye, but not just any Snake Eye deck. It's actually a volcanic Snake Eye deck. That's pretty cool. That's not a variant you see every day. Oh my god, we're finally going first. First game of the season here on YouTube where we're actually winning the coin flip here. And it's a pretty solid hand. We got the Lotus, we got the, well, I mean, I don't know. Opening Sharvara and original Yubel is not necessarily optimal here, but we can just use the Nightmare Pain to pop the Yubel. And then go for the Gruesome Gravestormer, so I mean the Terror Incarnates here. Now, if I recall correctly, I make a little bit of a misplay at some point here. But anyway, so far we're just doing things pretty standardly, right? Phantom, going for the Samsara D-Lotus, summoning the Gravestormer, gonna link these two off. Right, here's where I go for the Muckraker. Because I thought I was still on Nightmare Griffin. I was trying to remember why I made this. I was like, why did I make this when you can just bring back the spirit of... Or what did I even bring back with the Muckraker? I haven't even used the effect yet. Yeah, I brought back the spirit of Yubel. I was like, why did I do that when I could have just used the Squirmer? But it's because I thought I was on Nightmare Griffin still. Because that's the thing, with the Muckraker up, you're locked into Fiends, or after you use the effect anyway, so... I just got my combo lines mixed up in my head. But it's actually fine. Like, we can still end on a pretty solid board here, even if we are going to be Fiend-locked. So, no Appaloosa, but... We'll end on Unchained Soul of Rage, Phantom of Yubel, Muckraker, and OG Yubel. That lets us bring back the Samsara D-Lotus. And, I probably should just let the Yubel get popped, rather than tributing the Muckraker there. But, either way, it's all good. Okay, so they're going to want it and then also drop it here, but only for 2. So, I'm still going to have a negate here. And, yeah, that's right. So it was actually a misplay for them to target the Unchained Soul of Rage. That might look a little bit weird, but, I mean, they know I have the trap card face down Escape, and I did get Yama into the graveyard, which means that, you know, I can simply use Escape, pop one of their cards along with the Rage, then Yama bring back Rage, and then it'll be, it'll be online again. Whereas, because they didn't negate D-Lotus, and they might not even know this, a lot of people don't even really, necessarily recognize off the top of their head that Lotus is actually also effectively a negate as well. So, alright, they're going for the Diabel. I'm gonna max C here, as long as I know they're gonna try to summon Diabel anyway, right? So, oh, another nice little feature of Untapped is that it'll show you if a card is negated without having to highlight over it, which is nice too. Alright, so anyway, there's the Volcanic Trooper, as well as they're now summoning the Diabel Star. Scattershot's going to deal 500, going for the spell card. I decided to let them set it and see what it was before I committed to popping anything with Escape just yet. But now I'm going to do that. I'm going to Escape, pop the Trooper and the Rage. Now we can activate Yama's effect. And as the Rage effect, we get to wheel the Lotus back to our hand for follow-up plays, as well as now Yama gets to summon the Unchained Soul of Rage. Now, before priority passes to my opponent, I'm going to Rage, link off with the Diabel Star, and then now go for the SP Little Knight, which will let me banish the face-down OSS. So now, because I didn't want to just pop the OSS before they activated it right with the trap card, because then they can just banish it and search a level 1 like Poplar or something. I didn't want that to happen, but by banishing it, we prevent that from happening. We leave them with only 1 card in hand, and then we still have the SP up for even more interaction if they still have more plays. So, alright, there we go. That's going to do it for this video. Thanks, as always, for watching. Let us move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Just want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the very end of the video. Believe it or not, that is actually one of the best ways that you can support the channel, is by watching the videos in their entirety. But there are many ways in which you can support the channel if you are so interested. The names that you're seeing on screen here, I gotta give an extra special thanks to, because these are people who have chosen to either become a member on YouTube, which if you're interested you can do as well via the join button next to the subscribe button down there, or have signed up over on Patreon and become members there. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Without the support that is being offered by, again, all the people that you're seeing on screen right here, I would not be able to take the time to dedicate to uploading daily YouTube videos. So thank you so very much. But there are also other ways you can support as well. Again, link to the description below. If you like my deck tracker that you'll see in a lot of my videos, the Untapped Companion, you can download that for free, and if you use my affiliate link down there, then that also goes a long way towards supporting the channel. That's, again, free. So is subscribing here on YouTube. That's also free and a huge way to support. You can also check out Twitch, once again linked in the description below. Following and subscribing over there will not only support as well, but also give you notifications of when I go live if you want to catch some of the live streams. But really, no matter how you choose to support, it all adds up and it all definitely means the world. So thank you, each and every one of you. For now, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out. But more than that, I'm hoping that you have a fantastic day.